Well, whoops, almost did it again. G'day and welcome to another episode of Lanark County Confidential. This week's episode is episode number 17. Lanark County Confidential is being brought to you on WRVO Radio Network via Reno Vial Outdoors. So you can go there and check out this program and many others that are being broadcast that have to do with fishing in the outdoors. And some of them pretty interesting. I listened to a couple there. And gosh darn shucks, don't things go funny when you're it's like when the cat's away the mice will play sort of type thing. Anyways, today's episode is being brought to you by two things: MLS Custom Tackle and MLS Guide Service. They're my companies. Custom Tackle is all about selling gambler lures and Picasso lures. Two of the best products I've found. Gambler's Plastics, very good. Full line of everything that you're going to need, from jig trailers to worms to flapping shads to what their version of a Senko is an ace, and they come out with these things called why nots. They look like a water bug. They've got a really cool swim jig now that they just come out with. These I gotta say, Picasso and Gambler are about the two most innovative companies that I've had the pleasure of products to use. So that's why I support them and sell them. And also North Fork Composites, which Gary Loomis is making some awesome blanks these days, and I'm making them into some really beautiful rods too. So probably the most sensitive, lightest rods you'll get in the industry in these days. And I'll put them against anything out there. Anybody wants to compare them, bring yours down and we'll compare them. So anyhow, this week I just got to weigh into this dock water rights bullshit thing that that's going on. I got one thing to say about rights, especially I'm going to piss a lot of people off here right now. And I like to quote George Carlin. The guy's, even though he was a comedian, very smart man. His comment on God-given rights. God-given rights. Jeez. Okay, well, guess what? If God gave you the right to do that, then God gave me the right to do this. Like, where the hell does it end? Okay? My comment on God-given rights is you're listening to a magical friend who doesn't exist, puts all these demands on you and says you're going to burn in hell if you don't follow the golden rule. Give me a break, guys, okay? Gun ownership is all about our heritage, our tradition. Gun ownership is about war. Gun ownership is fishing rights is all about enjoyment. Fishing rights is all about education. Fishing rights it goes along with property rights, okay? I have the right to own this property because the government has allowed me to purchase it. The government has also allowed me to put a dock on my property that extends out in the water. And we'll get onto this take the lake back thing as well, too, because that's going to be part of this show as well, too. You got to go to Mississippi Lake to see what this dock's all about before you make comment on it. We were out there. Let's get to the fishing. Okay, I've done a lot of tournaments. Not a lot of tournaments. I've done 100 tournaments, say. So to me, that's a lot. I've fished docks before, and I find that there's a portion of anglers called bank beaters who fish docks. Some lakes, that's all you can fish are docks, and Mississippi Lake is one of those lakes that has a lot of docks. Mississippi Lake has a lot of aggressive property owners. In fact, at one point in time they had a lake association for almost every bay, almost every shoreline. So, and I can understand that. I mean, you just got to go onto that body of water on a July 4th weekend, or July 1st weekend, July 1st weekend, and see what it's like. It's ridiculous. And then you throw a tournament on there that day. It's my way of thinking is this. It's like the Rideau River. Go on the Rideau River between Manotick and Kempville. Manotick and Burris Rapids. There's some stretches there that people just don't use their brains. And that's what it comes down to. It's a lot of just common sense. There's docks that on Mississippi. I don't care about using, there's docks on every body of water that people don't want you to fish. Okay. Number one, I look at it from this aspect. And I'm going to go play devil's advocate here because why not? Nobody's speaking up for the other guy. They want somebody to argue the other point. I'm going to argue the other point. But I'm going to do it from both my perspectives as well, too. Because, like I said, I've done tournaments. I've fished tournaments, and I know that I got to fish docks in order to get certain fish, okay? Now, when I fished tournaments in my early days, I was a total spaz, okay? I ding him off that, I ding him off that. The guy, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and he has to hear some jackass bouncing a 3/4-ounce jig off his pontoon. Give me a break. Or he's got a $100,000 boat in a marina and you bounce a jig off the side of it at 7 o'clock in the morning? Hello? Why don't you go learn to fish someplace else rather than just fishing docks? Like, there's a whole body of water out there besides fishing docks, okay? So, what I generally do is I have some docks on some bodies of water I will just totally ignore because it's not worth it. I still fish docks. I don't do it as a rule per se because I've learned to fish other areas. I've learned to expand my fishing and become a more rounded fisherman and use the rest of the water rather than the communal spots and the communal shorelines that everybody fishes. All you got to do is fish a tournament on Mississippi Lake one time with 80 boats, and you'll understand what I mean. You'll understand when 6 boats in an hour come to the same weed line and fish it for 10 minutes and then screw off. That's what I'm talking about. And that's what some people just don't understand, okay? You're sitting there, and you've owned this property for 30 years, and you've seen it evolve over those 30 years from a nice quiet lake where, you'd get a fisherman come by maybe once or twice a week to now on the weekend you're getting 10 of them. I can understand their frustration, okay? I don't necessarily support it, and I understand that the law doesn't. However, look at the law from this aspect. That's their dock. That's not your dock. That's their boat. It's not your boat. You damage their boat, they have a right to have you arrested. It's property damage. It's plain and simple. That's the law, okay? So you damage you jam a jig into one of the ropes on their dock. You're damaging their property. They have a right to ownership of their property. They have a right to protection of their property. When they say, I don't own I don't want you fishing my dock, they have a perfect right to say, I don't want you fishing my dock. You can fish the water on either side of their dock, but you don't have to fish their dock. You don't have to throw a jig at their boat. You don't have to throw a Senko at their boat. You don't have to throw anything at their boat because it's their boat. If you want to fish the water around their dock, then fish the water around their dock. Okay? Get up the side and throw it from the side. If you can't do that, then you need to learn how to fish better and get the fuck out, and get out of there because it's their right to ownership just the same as it's your right to fish the water. I'm not saying it's not. I'm a fisherman, okay? I'm a hunter. I understand wanting to own a gun. I have animals on my property I want to kill. Let's go into that a bit further on the hunting aspect of it. Something that happened there a bit back. We've got 57 acres just north of Franktown. We have neighbors on either side. I got one neighbor on one side. He's the reeve, actually. And up until last year, I had a hard time of him keeping his cattle off my property. Or not off just the property, on down the road and on the highway. What's that all about? It's personal responsibility. It comes down to. So anyways, how did this come about? Yeah, I was driving around the four-wheeler, and I was looking for areas where the turkeys were coming through, because me and my buddy were out turkey hunting, and I wanted to expand on where our little spots that we could sit in. So I drove around to an area where there was some nice cedars, and there was an opening in it, and I'm looking at this opening, I'm saying, that doesn't look right. And I go up to it, and I'm thinking, that doesn't look right at all. And what's happened is somebody's come on our property. We have no trespassing signs going down the road. Somebody's come on the property and made their own deer stand on our property, but facing onto our neighbor's property. Okay? Now, it's quite elaborate. He's taken the fence down, 2 sections of fence down. Okay? And he's decided that I have to add to it, so he's brought some wood with him, because there's no sheets of plywood that grow naturally from. I've never seen plywood trees in the back there, anyways. So he's brought his own plywood in. He's made this stand a little up. He's opened an area up, and he's made a little killing area. So he instead of the deer having to jump over the fence, he's eliminated the fence, but he's made it so he funnels the deer into an area. And then what he's done is he's made a little stand on our property in a tree, and a little there's a mound of dirt and a tree in the middle of it. So he's made a little lean-to stand there. And there's no way he could have gotten to there except for driving onto our property and walking across it. And I never gave them permission to do that. So I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? Anyways, I tear it all apart and put the fence back up again, and because my neighbor's got cattle, and I know he doesn't want his cattle wandering down the road, and I know I don't want them wandering on my property, because I've had to deal with the guy on the other side with his cattle on my property. So anyways, my neighbor on the left-hand side was nice enough for me to let me do maple syrup off of. That's where I saw that wolf there a while back, and so I, in return, was taking him over 2 liters of syrup, and I told him, I said, this is what happened, and I fixed the fence and everything. He goes, and he says to me, he says, oh, that's probably my fault. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, this lad came to me from Canada and wanted to hunt on my property. And I said, oh, okay, well, it seems he was accessing your property via my property. And so being from the country and knowing that you made a mistake and taking responsibility for it, he says, oh, I'm sorry for that. I'll have a talk with him and make sure that he never gets invited back again. So I posted this on my Facebook page just to see how much of a response I would get. And, only a couple of close friends and a couple of other buddies responded to it, which is typical. Facebook's quite the social media event these days, isn't it? So anyways, yeah, you want to know your world events, go on Facebook. It's Facebook and Twitter. What a world we're coming to. Anyways, let's have conversations in under 144 characters. You are nice. Anyway, I had a good morning this morning. So anyways, let's get back to the subject. So what do I got to do? Well, I post this on Facebook, and I say, as a hunter, what's the response I'm going to get from hunters? I get very few responses, okay? Which is, like I say, which is typical to human nature, okay? When I was in university and we were doing psychology, you would put a study or a survey out there, and you put 100 out there, you get 25 of them back. And of those 25 of them, 12 you could believe, because 25 or half of the 25 were damaged. So when you see these studies and stuff like that out there, look at the numbers that they're basing them on. They could send 10,000 surveys out, and they may get 1,000 back, and that's how they base their studies on it. So there's a typical type of person that likes to respond to surveys. It's the same type of person that gets emotional about other stuff, that instead of getting emotional about it, they should just sit back and look at it logically, okay? Because we don't know everybody else's story. We don't know everybody else's experience. But what it comes down to is, and I get it, okay, because I fish. I don't want my morning to be pissed off by some jackass coming out in his robe and slippers and his coffee and his Tilly friggin' hat telling me that I can't fish his dock. I just heard a beep beep. I don't know what the hell that was, but tell me I can't fish his, maybe it's my BS meter going off. Tell me I can't fish his dock because the fish are spawning there, and me knowing full well that it's 45 or 50 degree water temperature, and there's not a chance in hell the bass are going to be there. But you know what? Your dock always holds really good crappie under it on a sunnier days, and that's what I'm fishing for with my little float and 16 thousandths jig there, buddy. So when I educated him on that, he still didn't want to understand. So guess what? We don't fish the dock. It's like this other moron on the lake. Okay, they've got this big, huge swim platform. It says on it, don't fish it. You know what? They don't have the right to say that. I understand that. They don't have the right to say that. I understand that. And these people are fanatical. Says what they do is they sit on their shoreline with their beverages and they berate you and take pictures of you. And you know, so why fall for it, for Christ's sakes? Like, give me a break. Use some common sense and just say, okay, I'm not going to get sucked into this. Maybe I'll learn to fish offshore. Maybe I'll learn to find some humps. Maybe I'll learn my electronics and find some other places to fish rather than beating the friggin' banks all the time. Mississippi Lake is a strange, strange lake, okay? It's probably one of the worst ones around, but I can understand because you got to go onto the lake on a busy weekend and understand what it's about. Now, they're going to put probably 4 or 5 tournaments on it this year as well, too. You're pissing people off. Give it a rest. Like, take it out of the rotation or whatever. Like, I mean, I run a tournament series, and you know, we understand that. That's why we limit the size of our club, and we don't go back to every lake. And when I look at a lake that's going to be fished 4 times, we're going to find someplace else to fish. I got a dock on the Rideau River. It's a pontoon. There's usually a 5-pound or largemouth underneath it. I've done pretty consistent, like it's an 80% shot that if nobody's abused it, he's there. The guy comes down and he watches me fish. And I ask him every time, is it okay for me to fish your dock? He says, yeah, go ahead, no problem. I got no problem with that. He's got no problem with that. And everybody's happy. But you know what? There's not all those happy people in the world. There are angry people in the world. There are people that are just pissed off because that's the way they wake up in the morning. So you add that with some caffeine and some property rights, and of course you're going to get a moron. But you know what? Why let the morons piss you off? Just move on, you know, move on from the morons and get to the people that are a bit more intelligent thinking. Those people are going to allow you to go fish other places, and you're not going to have to use that crap. You're not going to have to go fish docks all the time because you're going to be a smarter angler and you're going to be able to use some of the places that the other anglers don't fish. My gosh, what a concept. Anyways, let's get back to Take the Lake Back, okay? I'm going to play the devil's advocate on this one as well, too. Because, again, it affects Mississippi Lake. It's a lake that I'm very close to, and I fish all the time. And I wish Reno had consulted me on this one, but anyways, no offense to Reno. This is my take on this one. They wanted to put a dock in. They got their sponsored angler to do a report. That's like the tobacco companies getting their own paid doctor to say there's no such thing as cancer from tobacco smoking. First of all, anyways, that doesn't pass the smell test. Okay, getting SBC to do an environmental study when SBC is sponsored by the marina doesn't pass the smell test. Okay, first of all, if that's your environmental study, okay, this company has no experience in doing that at all. So let's go on from that. Let's go on to see how they did it. They called somebody and said, "It's okay for us to put a dock out," and then they put the dock out. We've ice fished out there, and that was the first time I saw it. See, this is not this issue goes back a year ago. Okay, this started started last summer, so this has been going on for a year. Actually, before, because I saw the year before that. We saw it when we were ice fishing, and I didn't get out there last year. We didn't go to that area. So it was the year before that I saw it. Okay, so and to me it looked like somebody's big, huge ice rink, and if it wasn't well lit at nighttime, it's danger. Okay, somebody's coming along in a snowmobile. So the size of it is ridiculous. That's the first thing I have to say about the dock. The second thing I have to say about it is you put 66 more people on that lake in a day with the goofballs that are out there, with the people that are out there with PWCs, and with the parents out there pulling their kids on tubes, and somebody's going to get hurt. So if money's if there's enough money in it that it's okay that somebody gets hurt, then go for it. I don't care. All it means is I'm not going to spend my time there. And that's what I know I know exactly what they're going to want to do. See, what's happened is I think the marina sees value in having tournaments, or one tournament series anyways, constantly come to their marina, which they didn't want to in the past, but obviously something's changed there because they've been doing it in town and probably getting a good response in town. So I think the marina wants the publicity, and they probably want the traffic at the marina on the weekends. If not, we'll see what happens. I could be wrong on that, but if I am, so be it. But to me, it makes perfect sense, because what's been happening is that major series has been doing it out of town, and they've been getting a good buzz doing it out of town. So maybe logistically it's too hard to take 85 boats and run them for that length of time to go underneath the bridge, because they're losing time and stuff. I don't know what the problem is, but I'm pretty sure that has something to do with it. Okay, so getting back to the fact that Mississippi Lake is getting quite busy, adding that many more boats. This is not about access to the lake or anything like that. It's all and using a couple of catchphrases, tearing the fabric of the community and stuff like that. Come on, guys, let's stop being so emotional about this, and let's be logical thinking, and do a service to what's happening on this lake, because you know what, it can happen to any lake. What happens to the property owner that says, "Shit, I want to extend my dock 1,000 feet into the lake because I can do it"? Where does reason start to come in over common sense? I'm not saying that they shouldn't be allowed to put a dock out there, but that dock is ridiculous. It cuts off the majority of that bay. If you saw the way that the dock is going to be placed and the size of it, if you're paddling down that shoreline, you're no longer paddling down that shoreline. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to make a turn, go out, I forget how many feet, and go along about how many feet, and then go back into the bay again. So, like, it's fine for the fish because it's going to provide a bunch of structure and stuff like that. But that whole bay and that whole side is where people do stupid things, and it's like well, here's the concept about ownership of and stuff like that. You got a sidewalk out in front of you, okay? So what stops me from coming down your street and standing in your sidewalk for a half an hour and doing something that's annoying to you and making noise and banging pots and pans and stuff like that? You don't have the right to kick me off the street. You can call the cops and everything like that, and unless I'm breaking some strange law, I'm still allowed to be on the sidewalk, you know? What if I stand on the sidewalk and have a sign on me that says the person inside is a loser? What if I did that? What law am I breaking? I don't know. So, you know, where this property rights thing comes from, something that the government has given you, and you know what? The government is going to take it away if they so choose it. So if we get bent out of shape and pissed off about this and make this into a big uproar instead of just trying to be civil about it, that's what the government does. The government comes in and legislates stuff when people can't get it through their heads to just agree on it. That's why the government is there. Now, I agree with Reno that this government that we got in there is benign. They have no concept in their brains. They have no leadership right now. They put people at the head of the MNR that are just total idiots. The concept that they're doing in the MNR is based on cottage owners and stuff like that. So I agree that, you know, we need to, as fishermen, stand up and take our rights. But it's like years ago. I went on a message board, and I posted about them wanting to ban lead and this whole tungsten thing, or this whole ending lead and stuff like that. And I did some studying about how many loons were killed, and the lead stuff does kill loons. I mean, there is irrefutable evidence that. I don't know how those guys do it, but the loons go down and they will find a lead sinker on the bottom, and they'll eat it, and it'll kill them. They also find lead shot in places as well too. So you know what? The guys are saying, you know, gun ownership and hunting and all the rest of that. Well, I understand that you're not supposed to use lead shot near the water, but not everybody is as law-abiding as, you know, which brings me back to the guy that put his hide on my land. You know, he was given permission to hunt on somebody else's land, but he was entitled in his own brain, okay, to walk across our land, to first of all park his vehicle on our land, and then walk across our land, not once, but many times. Never bothered to coming down to say to the landowner, hey, could I, you know, he just naturally assumed through his own entitlement of rights, okay, and never did any research. And this is what I'm trying to get across, okay? I have tons of rights, okay? I have the right to my opinion here, okay? But the right is not based on an ignorance of the facts or the events or what's going on. The right should be based on an intelligent study of the situation. And going on the internet and trying to find information about something on the internet is like going to the library and looking in the nursery rhyme section. Sure, you're going to get some really, really good stories, but how much of them can you really believe? Old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard. Yeah. So, anyways, to get back to this Take Back the Lake thing, there are agenda-driven people on both sides, okay? So what does the marina do? The marina sort of gets an imaginary environmental study done by one of their sponsored anglers, okay? And they think that's sufficient. And then they ignore 300 or they ignore that they have to inform the MNR about their intentions. And then they just go put it out there. So, and then they wait for the repercussions, and they got caught on it. So what do? They try and backpedal and do everything that they possibly can, like most companies do when they don't have the right, or they try and do things that they maybe should have waited for, you know, the go-ahead, the authorization from the government, from the governing body. Because guess who came along and told them to take it out? Okay? It wasn't the people saying, take back the lake. So let's get this whole thing in perspective. They did something that they weren't allowed to do. They got their hands slapped, and now they're crying foul, which is bullshit. Sorry. Anyways, So that's what I have to say about that coming from the other side. I understand the guy wants to make some money. The marine owner wants to make the money. They have the perfect right to that. You know what? I'm not denying them that right at all. But what I am saying is, before we go emotionally off the deep end of the dock, let's look at both ends of this dock and see both perspectives, okay? Because if we look at both perspectives of this situation, I know we can come to a mutual understanding at times, okay? Because it's just like that guy on Mississippi Lake. Whenever we fish whenever we come down the shoreline of this one section of Mississippi Lake, okay, and the guy doesn't even get out of his seat. He sits in his front. I got to videotape it too. He sits in his front porch and he yells at you, "Don't fish my dock." It's the funniest thing, because you're looking around going, where the frig did that come from? Because it's all darkened, eh? It's like some kind of CIA. Anyways, the guy sits, and it's all screened, so the bugs can't get to him. Well, so he sits there, and I don't know whether he's got a beer or a frickin' rye or whatever. And I know he doesn't have a shotgun. Oh, there's a guy down by McCullough's Landing, by the marina down there. A couple of years ago, I'm pre-fishing for a tournament. He lets his dog out. A big German Shepherd comes running to the end of the dock. You know, like, it didn't scare me. I ignored the dock. I just went around it, you know, like, no big deal. So what? I didn't get to fish your dock. No big deal. I'm not going to get bent out of shape about it, okay? So you're vehemently opposed to people fishing your dock. You know what? I could understand it. You have 4 or 5 people coming and walking down my street on the sidewalk with an "I'm a loser" sign in front of course I'll be upset. You know? I got somebody coming down my lane and wants to look at the used Jeep I got out in front. That gets me going. But then don't put it out there. Guess what? To the landowner, don't have a dock. How's that happen? You know, no dock, no fisherman. Pretty easy, isn't it? You know, to the fisherman, just choose your docks, for Christ's sakes. How hard can that be? Are you addicted to docks? Can you not fish docks? Can you not fish someplace else? Holy cow. No, I gotta fish docks. I gotta fish shorelines. And you know what? I'll tell you this, okay? From fishing years of tournaments, I'd take maybe 10% of the boats are actually skilled enough to put a jig where they want to put a jig, okay? Because the other morons are just too stupid to practice it. And they think, oh, I got my big boat. And, oh, don't get me on this one now. Oh, yeah, just the plain. The egotism of some tournament guys really, really gets to me. And it to the point where these guys go out and buy these big boats. Like, they'll have a little boat one year, they'll have a tin boat one year or whatever that. And then they'll go out and they'll buy a big fancy bass boat. And then all of a sudden, their attitude changes. Okay, now I'm a big boat owner, and I'm this and I'm that, and I'm da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, my poo doesn't have any aroma at all. And you know, you should sponsor me to do this, and I should get sponsorship for that, and I'm going to do this, and you know what? It's all in their head. It's all in their head. I've seen too many of it. It's like I say, 10% of the anglers out there are good. The rest of them is just fodder for the rest of them guys. If you didn't have, and look at it, it doesn't matter. I don't care what. I don't care what sport it is. It's in every sport. I mean, this is just a statistical fact that you can go to any sport, and 10% of the guys are the best, and the rest are just the guys that are the ne'er-do-wells, and they provide the fees and all the rest of that for everybody else. So, but these guys are so lacking in self-esteem that they have to pump themselves up by the fancy shirts and, you know, the frickin' wraps and you know, I'm going to do this for you, and they don't do squat. I mean, my business last couple of years, I sponsored a couple of guys. What a waste of time that was. So, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just the people that I sponsored. But you know what? If you're a business out there and you're looking at sponsoring a tournament angler, give me a call, send me an email, because I got a couple of names of guys that just don't go near, because they won't do nothing for you anyways. So enough about that one. Back to the, but that in itself leads to this whole subject as well, because those are the same guys that never learn how to fish. And what they do is they follow everybody else. They go, oh, I remember that boat. That's that guy. And then they see who wins the tournaments. And then they go fish those guys' spots afterwards. They don't learn nothing because they're throwing a Senko all day long. They can't pitch a jig because it splashes down. They got no coordination at all. They can't feel a fish. Their hands are stones. And what they do is they think, oh, but I'm playing. Yeah, well, they're playing a game. And they are playing the game. Like I say, they're the fodder for everybody else, because heaven forbid they didn't show up, the other guys wouldn't have any fees or they wouldn't have any prize money. So, but that's the type of guy that gets vehement about fishing a dock, or my right to fish a dock, or, you know, like, this is such a silly argument. It to me, when I learned how to fish weed lines, this whole argument just went out the door. It's so much the fact that I'm going to do a show, and it's going to be called Fishing with Ernie. And I'm just going to describe the day that I went fishing with this guy, who's really, as far as I'm concerned, probably the best angler that I've fished with. And I fished against, and didn't know that I was fishing against him. But I found out later that a couple of tournaments that I fished, he was the way guy for a major tournament series. He fished it, and he did very well in it. And he just knew Big Ritos so well that, you know, he could pull up to a spot and throw a jig, catch a 4-pounder, and pull up to another and catch another 4-pounder. You know, do that 5 times in the first hour and a half in the morning, and sit back for the rest of the day, eat sandwiches, and weigh in at the end of the day with 20 pounds. So I was fortunate enough to go fishing with him. And I call it fortunate enough. It's almost an honor to go fishing with him, in so much that in one day I learned he showed me so much, or I absorbed so much off of him in one day, that I don't have to fish docks anymore. Or if I do, it's a specific dock, and I don't get any problems from the landowner or the property owner. And that's where education and expanding your knowledge comes into play. You go to Mississippi and you beat the bank all the time, you're going to get the same response, because you're going down the same shorelines all the time. I see it all the time. And it's so much that I like to fish humps and stuff like that, rather than fish the same stuff that everybody else does. Have I won tournaments? No, but you know what? I don't look at it as, if I want to go out and have a good day in Mississippi, I won't go out do a tournament, and I won't go out I won't go out on the weekend. I'll go out during the week, because all those fish that used to be on the shoreline move back onto it. They're not stupid. They see all this traffic coming down the shoreline. They move off of it. Some of them do, some of them don't. But the vast majority, you can go out and catch them out deeper. And you may catch 1 or 2 on the docks. You may luck out. If it's a typically very deep dock, which there happen to be a few, if you can find them, you might get 2 fish off of it. You might get 3 fish off of it sometimes. And then therein lies the statement is as well too. People having issues. I don't have issues with property owners, because I respect their property. I don't bounce jigs off of the sides of pontoons. If I do, I apologize to it, and I move on. I don't sit there and try and get it down there again. If I get it the first time, fine, because I don't feel that need to constantly fish docks. So. And it comes down to, like I say, this fact that I learned. The day that I was fishing with Ernie, we were going down the shoreline, and we got to a section of docks. They were less than 10 feet away from us, and I looked at him and I said, Ernie, what do you think about the docks? He looked at me, he says, are we fishing docks today? I said, no. He says, well then, who cares? Okay. And we moved on. And we left the docks alone. As simple as that. No grief, no hardship. And I understand because I was on Newborough one day and I had a frickin' boulder. I'm talking a boulder, a 10 to 15 pound rock thrown at me over a hedge. Not once, but twice. The first time it was a small rock. Okay, I thought it was a fish boiling or a frog jumping or whatever. So I continued on into this bay. And then, boom, this big splash behind me. Now I knew that wasn't a fish, just because of the size of the splash. And I saw the guy through the hedge, and he was picking up another rock. Like I could have got combative with the guy, because I have. I've at times, I guess a couple of times, got combative with them. But then I went, is it worth it? And then, am I really going to get combative with a guy that's throwing a frickin' boulder? Like I've bounced a 3/4 ounce jig off my boat, and it hasn't done anything. But a boulder, I mean, that's going through the deck. So at that point, screw it. I don't need that grief. The rest of the day is going to be screwed. The cops are there. Why? I asked that question. Why? Because a unseeing friend gave you that right, or the government gave you that right. How about just the right to be? How's that? How's that? How does your right to be on the water overpower my right to own land, a cottage, a dock, and have peace and quiet? Like I said, I don't come to your front yard at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning with a sign on me saying there's an idiot that lives in this house. If I did, well, I might understand that, but I don't. So I'm having a hard time understanding how you have the right, or I as an angler has the right to do that to somebody's property. Now, I'm not talking about going up to a dock and surgically taking it apart with a jig or a Senko or something like that. Something that's quiet and you're not going to, make a lot of noise. I'm not talking about that. But like I said, there's only 10% of the fishermen out there that can really do that. All you got to do is watch Major League Fishing, okay? Watch them on Lake Istapoga. Anyways, even these guys are bouncing them off the tubes of the pontoons. They're bouncing off the boats and stuff like that, and they don't care, okay? It's no big deal to them. Now, maybe down in the States, it's different. Maybe up here, we got a few landowners that are a bit more irate. But you know what? I think down there, I'd be more careful about it because there's way more gun owners down there than there are up here. So, it just goes to show you how this rights thing can get totally frickin' overblown when people get too emotional about it. So, anyhow, this Take Back the Lake thing, that's just all about, this would be the same thing as a big corporation just saying, no, everything's fine, environmental study says everything's, and guess what? You're not going to get cancer from smoking cigarettes. It's the same thing here, okay? They got caught, okay? Look at who did the study. Look at how it was gone about. So, I'm not supporting the Lake Association. Nobody's trying to close down any access to any launches. And if you really wanted to do that, run over to Quebec because they do it way more in Quebec than they do it in Ontario. As far as the issue with the MNR, I think your fight is more with the MNR because they're all mentally deranged in the head because they've got this agenda that's I'm going to have to say, is going to give up rights for fishermen. But here's the thing, I should have finished this one before, but it comes down to, like I said, I posted this thing on LED and on a message board, and you know what? Nobody would support it. Nobody would support it at all. They just said, oh, well, I don't use too much of it, or I don't use that, or it's not an issue to me, and they didn't care. So that's what you got from the anglers out there. You've got a bunch of apathetic anglers who only care about their own individual rights and don't actually want to get together cohesively. So, Reno, I understand your frustration. I am very frustrated about it myself as well, too, because it seems that the anglers are just going to sit on the sideline and watch their rights get stripped away from them one by one, which the government has every right to do. And if we don't stand up as a voice and do something about it, obviously the old FAH isn't doing that. And if that's the case, then, I'm probably not going to be a member anymore of it, because I thought they were doing something about it. From what I'm hearing, they're not doing much about it. So obviously this has become a government body whose uses numbers to their advantage when they want to do when they want to implement stuff. But it's just as silly as opening the season up for bass a week earlier and letting it go later on in the season. A year like this year, you have a couple of cold years. What's that going to do to the long term of the long term health of that lake? You have 2 or 3 bad seasons, you lose that creel. You lose that year. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyways, in the long run, that's going to hurt that lake. So in the short term, we're looking at the revenue we're going to gain from it, but in the long term, we're not looking at what it's going to do to us over 20, 30 years. So it's a myopic look at what is going on in the industry and the oversight that's lacking from the government agency or the government minister or the government agency or department is based on the agenda of the government, and the government is just looking at revenues at this point because of the economy. So can I blame them? Not really, but do I blame the anglers more? I blame the anglers more because they don't want to get educated about it, obviously. They just rather sit back and whine about it and go, oh, well, what am I going to do about it, rather than getting organized. And because when you try to organize them, what do? Not much. Hopefully, with WRVO and this radio network and stuff like that, we can get the message out. We'll get both sides of it out, so people can agree with both sides of the issues, rather than it just being a one-sided, conservative style. I'm not conservative. I'm not liberal. And if you want to look into my background, I got way more conservative in my background than I do liberal. I've had my uncle was in the Senate, so my great-grandfather was in the Senate as well, too. Conservative, both of them. My uncle was a good friend of Brian Mulroney, so am I conservative? No. Am I anti-government? I'm anti-government. That's what I am. I'm anti a government that's being lobbied by corporations to do what they want to do, all in the guise of economic development that has myopic views that we're going to outsource all of our manufacturing to China. Don't get me going on that one. So anyways, I got to wrap this one up. I'm going 50 minutes on this, and I shouldn't. I only wanted to go half an hour on it. But I thought I had to add in a second point of view because I think I just see it a different way. What can I say? If you agree with me, great. If you don't, send me an email. Most people that don't agree with me don't send me emails. So most people are agreeing with me, I guess. Anyways, that's going to be it for today, I guess. If you got some comments on this show or anything that you'd like to hear. Oh, my lake report. Mississippi's still up. Talked to a couple guys been fishing Muskrat Lake, and Muskrat Lake, the water level is up like you wouldn't believe. Don't know if you know, but Muskrat A lot of the lakes around here have been down over the last few years because of lack of rainfall. So that's good to hear. The Ottawa River above Iron Prior is still high. People aren't putting their docks in yet, so they're holding back the water. With this rain that we're going to have, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So, global warming, eh? My theory was if you melt that much water, it's going to go into the air, and it's going to rain. So I don't know how many thousands of years ago they found palm trees up here in the prehistoric diggings. So who knows? Maybe it'll be a tropical rainforest sometimes. Anyways, thanks for listening. I really appreciate you coming by this week and listening to Lanark County Confidential. It's been brought to you by MLS Custom Tackle and MLS Guide Service on the WRVO radio network. Check it out on Reno Vile Outdoors. I appreciate you coming by. See you next week.